Hey random stranger, so we're going to be listening to the full version of Sakanaction's Kaiju, which was actually the OP for the anime series Orb. I loved this OP. I felt like even just the short excerpt that we got in the anime somehow expressed the themes of the story really well, particularly like the sense of curiosity and wonder that drove all of the main protagonists. But special shout out to Yolenta. I've never listened to the full song, so that's what we're going to do, and we'll see what more we can pick up from the music. Chills. I do like the spacey atmospherics to contrast with the detached piano chords. Yeah, the detached chords on the back half of the beats is really cool. I never noticed the choral harmonies. Were they always there? I do like that they are a mix of like male and female vocals, you know, to reflect the cast and, well, I guess also the entire history of scientific discovery. It's a great compositional choice to contrast this much smoother, more sustained section with the previous detached part. And then here, everything is just so much more on the beat. It just gives it a really strong driving forward momentum. Oh, nice. I like how that's sustaining the bass notes over the piano chords now, so there's much less gaps in the sound compared to verse 1. Yeah, it just gives this verse a much stronger sense of grounding, I guess. Oh, nice. Ooh. The unison in the voices is giving me chills. Strings. Nice. Wait, so they're singing the vocal melody of the chorus over the detached piano accompaniment of the verse now. So it's like a mix and match. Just a false sense of rest. Oh, okay. They've changed the bass line now. They're not starting on the one chord anymore. Oh, nice. I loved how they saved that final push up to the highest melodic point for this last minute. Damn, I think this song is actually perfect. Yeah, unison all the way to the end. The question is, will they resolve it? They did not resolve it. I knew they wouldn't. There is never an end to new scientific observations and discoveries. Damn, it is a quirky, brilliant song, and the full thing is so much more powerful and really delivers like a storytelling punch. Like honestly, 10 out of 10. Let's start with something that immediately jumps out at me about this song, and that is that it's written in G sharp minor. So what's the big deal? You know, there's a lot of songs nowadays written in G sharp minor, but from a classical music perspective, especially in the pre-romantic period, you know, before Beethoven up and rose and just tore up the rule book, composers rarely set their songs in G sharp minor. Why? Well, it has 5 sharps, which makes it in one sense harder or more annoying to play on traditional instruments like the piano or its predecessor, the harpsichord, or the violin or the guitar. It's not that you can't play a piece with 5 or more sharps, but the available instruments back in the day certainly made playing in G sharp minor a lot more inconvenient, at least until more modern tuning systems and instrument designs were invented. Even today, like speaking as a pianist and a violinist, I see a piece of music with 5 sharps in it and I'm going to pull a face, like it's going to be the... And that's why I really like the choice of G sharp minor, because the relative inconvenience of the key perfectly mirrors what the protagonists in Orb had to face. G sharp minor just rubs against the grain of what's naturally comfortable to play on classical instruments, just like how Rafal and Badeni and my favorite Yolenta and all the rest of them had to work against centuries of established geocentric thought. The key choice itself is like a musical nod to challenging convention. I went back and I combed through all the little details of each section, and I just came away with an even deeper respect for how almost every musical choice and element reflects the really exciting story of gradual scientific discovery that was the focus of Orb. So let's just walk through the song again. I just want to say right off the bat that is probably my favorite part of the main vocal melody, when it slides from that D sharp, so the dominant, all the way up to the supertonic, the high supertonic, and then it just kind of hangs in the air. It's just such a suspended moment of, I don't know, wonder, discovery, curiosity. Okay. So just focus on the way that those piano chords are played. After that atmospheric intro, we hit verse 1 and even more of those distinct, detached piano chords. It makes the music feel fragmented and uncertain, but also a bit cheeky and curious. Kind of like those first tentative observations that suggest something may be wrong with conventionally held scientific truths. I kept saying that the chords that fall on the second half of those beats are detached and not staccato. So they're 2 different piano playing techniques. With staccato, I don't know if you can see my wrist there, but you make these very short, sharp, snappy sounds by literally snapping your wrist up quickly as you're playing the notes. But the piano notes here are more what we call detached. So instead of like snapping your wrist up, you lift your whole arm up and down as you play the notes. The result is that, yes, the notes have gaps in between them and they are fragmented, but they sound a lot more connected than if you'd played it with staccato. I like the choice of using detached technique there because to me, the piano notes reminded me of like the scattered pieces of evidence that are still all connected and that hint at a larger truth. Yes, the choral harmonies. They're so distinct, each of the different voices, but they also blend together so well. And I like to think that it represents the different scientists and the astronomers over time that each made their own independent discoveries that all pointed to one central truth, you know, namely that the Earth is not the center of the universe. So this first pre-chorus is when for the first time this smoother, more flowing and sustained section mixes with the detached piano part. Kind of like that moment when all of these scattered observations start forming a discernible pattern. There's even that cool like space shuttle like pinging sound. Yeah, it's a nice touch that reinforces the cosmic theme in like a very modern kind of way. 1, 2, 3. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly everything just snaps onto the beat. The way those notes are tied as well. Da, 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 da. Those tied notes being stretched over several bars while the bass drum is banging on every single beat gives this section such a strong forward momentum. Also, the chord progression here is 1, 6, 3, 7. Just repeated over and over. 1, 6, 3, 7. 1, 6, 3, 7, 1. Starting bang on the 1 chord and just repeating that progression over sounds like what ever-growing confidence would sound like. I guess when you finally accept and embrace heliocentrism, there's no going back really, it's just full speed ahead. Last little note about the chorus, it was smart of them to have the chorus be the only section that does not have any of the raised notes of the G-sharp melodic minor scale that you find in both the verse and the pre-chorus. So this is the G-sharp melodic minor, and we're really interested in the 6th and the 7th notes, which is where the difference is. 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So what makes it a melodic minor scale is that as you go up the scale, the 6th and the 7th notes are raised by 1 semitone more than they usually are in the normal natural minor scale. So in the verse, da, da, that da is this note. It's this raised 7th or the F double sharp. And then in the pre-chorus, da, that's this note here, the raised 6th. There are none of those in the chorus, which makes it sound more stable and lends itself to 1, pushing forward the musical narrative, and 2, making the direction of that narrative one of hope and progress. So unlike in verse 1, now you have the bass and the guitar sustaining their notes even as the piano stays detached, and there are less piano chords in this verse. I like that made verse 2 sound more grounded. Almost like it's saying, yes, our worldview has fundamentally changed, but there is still more to learn and still some gaps in our knowledge, even though there are slightly less gaps. Over the centuries, generations both add to that collective knowledge and also come up with new questions to ask. All right, the bridge, probably my favorite part. It's just so cool. I already made the point about how the vocal harmonies we had suddenly become a solid, strong, unison vocal chorus. It's like one voice, one message. And it really feels like that critical moment when the weight of scientific evidence kind of tilts heavily towards one side. As more and more people added their voices and their observations to support the new heliocentric worldview, it became harder and harder to deny. It's also cool how the electronic elements ramp up here in the bridge, and for a split second, da-da, in the bass line, just tucked away in the back there, da, that's a jarring chromatic A natural. Chromatic in the sense that it's not part of the G sharp minor scale that we've been in, and it's just one semitone off the home note. So da, G sharp, and it's like, oh, when you first hear it, it's uncomfortable on purpose. It reinforces that we are really venturing into new or like revolutionary territory. Second pre-chorus. Yeah, the difference is huge compared to the first one. Da, 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 da. I love those soaring strings. The instrumentation is just so much thicker here, with the strings and the ambient sounds layered in, and also the extra electronic sounds. Like, the depth of scientific understanding has grown exponentially, and you've just got so much more to draw on. Breathe. And then sort of back to the simple chorus. I really liked how that place took a breather. You know, even though there are all of these breathtaking scientific discoveries being made, there is still space for self-reflection and just appreciating the beauty of the universe. You know, the progression stays familiar here. And it kind of gives us a moment to absorb everything that's happened up to this point. Because then we go into this crazy part. Okay, so remember that first chorus with its solid 1, 6, 3, 7 progression? It started confidently from the 1 chord, which is the home chord, and then cycles through a relatively stable pattern, which is a good representation of characters in Orb who were, you know, initially excited and believed in their revolutionary discoveries, but they hadn't yet been fundamentally changed from the inside out by them. I'm thinking of example of Yolenta, you know, who when she was young knew that she'd stumbled onto something huge, but it wasn't until she went through a bunch of traumatic stuff did her convictions turn her into the fearless leader of a heretical group. This chorus is profoundly different to the first one. You know, this is the chorus of died in a fiery explosion Yolenta. Because instead of the straightforward 1, 6, 3, 7 repeated progression, we get this. 6, 5, 1, 7, 4, 5, 1, 7, 6 again, dominant 7, 1, 3, 4, 5, 1. It's just a more technically and emotionally complex progression. The key takeaways really is that first, we start the progression on the 6 chord, so the submedian, instead of the 1 chord, the tonic. So the submedian chord shares 2 notes with the tonic. It's the bass note that's different. So already we're beginning from kind of like a place of displacement and openness rather than this very grounded stability of the 1 chord. Secondly, it's just a more drawn out, more up and down chord progression that contains in its second half this drawn out dominant 7th chords, which creates this sort of like suspended, almost like hovering feeling, like you're kind of caught between 2 different worldviews. Also significant is the fact that the 4 chord, so that C sharp minor chord, appears for the first time in this entire song, right at the end here in this last chorus. So that also adds a real sense of emotional depth that really wasn't there at any point before this. So switching up that entire chord progression in this last chorus so that you can compare it to what it was previously, it's just a fundamentally different chord progression to represent fundamentally changed characters, and I loved that. They have been through intellectual and emotional upheaval and they've emerged completely transformed people. Whereas the first chorus really felt more aligned with like the excitement and the wonder of these new beliefs that are just emerging. This last chorus felt more like unshakable conviction that's been earned through lots and lots of struggle and tears. It's really cute, the la 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 la. And then we're back to these piano chords. So after that huge emotional and melodic peak of the entire song, it ends with just those same detached piano chords that started everything. It's kind of like just like in the anime, you know, there's always a sense of looking back to see how it all began. And if you've watched a series, there is also a certain character that makes an appearance towards the end that really makes you think about the first character that we met. And of course, as we already mentioned, the song does not resolve nicely. Like it doesn't tie a neat little bow around the 1 chord of the scale. Just like the protagonists in Orb, they don't reach some sort of final destination of knowledge because, well, generally scientific discovery never truly ends. You know, there's only just opening doors to other infinite questions. In conclusion, in my humble opinion, Kaiju is a masterclass in musical storytelling. From its key signature to its evolving structure, every musical element is essentially, you know, the anime's emotional and intellectual journey reproduced in musical form. Thank you guys for coming on this music theory dive with me. I do want to do more of these in the future, so if you have any suggestions for me to look at, let me know, and I guess I'll see you for the next one.